Well, this is one of the cheapest quads I've ever picked up. Just got this thing for 600 bucks. But I can see why. This thing was beat on. I mean, it is rough, very rough. But this is a 2004 Suzuki LTZ400. The seller stated that it's been sitting for quite a while. You can see last registered in 2018. So what is that, like 7-8 years? He said when he last rode it, it shut off and won't start back up. So that's when he parked it and hasn't touched it since. So he said he doesn't know exactly what's wrong with it. He just knows that there's a major issue with it, and that's why he sold it so cheap. So as of right now, it does not turn on or do anything. You can see the start button doesn't work. It looks like the reverse switch is out of it. Looks like it's mounted here with a zip tie. Should be right here. Let's see if there's any gas in it. Doesn't look like any gas in it, so that probably leaks. Let's see if the throttle's stuck. No, it's not stuck. Grip is just coming off of it. Look at all the tape underneath the grip. Grip is like half off. Tires are completely bald. It's got green front shocks, which is really weird, and a green rear. I don't think that's stock. Has an aftermarket pipe, HMF. Looks like the brake caliper broke right off of it, so we have to fix that. Chain is absolutely rusted through and extremely tight on here. Seat actually looks pretty good, and plastics look pretty decent. Not a ton of rips in the plastics, and does have the old Nerf bars on there. So overall the body's not too bad, but you know, it just looks like it's been beat on. Looks like the original carb in there too. You can see the tail lights just mounted on with zip ties. Yeah, it's a classic beater quad. So today's goal is going to be to get this thing up, running, and driving by the end of the video. I'm not very optimistic based on the looks of the quad. It looks like it's pretty rough and it's been beat on, but you never know. Maybe the seller made a small mistake and there's just a simple issue with it. Or it could be something seriously wrong with it, like a rod bearing, a crank bearing, the top end could be junk. You know, there's lots of different ways this thing could go. But this one's a complete mystery, which makes it kind of fun. So we'll have to tear into it and find out what's going on with it. So let's get this thing off the trailer and we'll start digging into it. This one should be pretty fun. Alright, quick little walk around of this thing. You know, from far away it doesn't look too bad. But as you get closer to it, you can see the damage. You know, it's pretty rusty. Everything's kind of covered in a layer of rust. Plastics are kind of faded. Not in the greatest shape. I'm hoping this thing's not locked up. Guess we'll find out today. Well, we got this thing in the garage. Let's start tearing into it. I'm really hoping it's not as bad as it looks. So let's start off with the oil, see if there's any oil in it. This will probably tell us if it was burning oil. Let's see, where is the dipstick on this thing? Must be on the other side. Oh, here it is. So right down here, it says 2,000 milliliters, so that's the capacity of the engine. Let's see if there's any oil in here. I'm guessing no. Ooh, it's really low. Just on the tip of it. Let's see here. Yeah, it doesn't really even show up on the dipstick. That's a good sign. So we're off to a bad start here. not a lot of oil in it. All right, I think the gas tank was empty. Let's just check it one more time to make sure with a flashlight. Well, at least it's clean in there. Petcock looks good in there. So not a bunch of crusty gas in there at all. So at least the gas tank looks good. I was gonna check for cracks in it. I wonder if that petcock leaks, because literally there's no gas at all in there. So somebody must have drained it, or it leaked out over time. All right, seat looks pretty good. There's a rip here, rip here, rip there. That is definitely the original seat from 2004, so it held up. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. There's a lot of sand though, all over everything. So I hope this top end's not junk. Let's see what's going on inside the air box. Look at this battery too. Looks pretty old. Ooh. There's an air filter in it. Looks pretty rough. Let's take that out of there. Ooh. Yeah. It's ripping apart. Look at that. That's nasty. Let's take the cage out. Looks like there's remnants of a mouse there. Yeah, that's really gross. So a little mouse got in there. Oh, nasty. Lots of sand. Yeah. At least there was an air filter and it was actually oiled up. So I think it just got like that from sitting for a very long time. So hopefully that was protecting the engine. We'll see here soon. Next, let's take a look at the battery. It looks like there's a main fuse here. Solenoid. Yeah, 20 amp fuse there. Everything's connected up correctly and in place, all nice and neat. So nobody messed with that too much. We'll check the fuse and we'll check the battery here quick. Check the fuse first. If we hear a beep, it's good to go. All right, fuse is good. See if there's any voltage. I'm guessing probably not here. Let's see. 1.2 volts. Yeah, pretty sure that battery's junk. So we'll get the cover back on. I'm surprised it still has this cover here. And that can go back in place here. Alright, let's try to get some of these plastics off so we can get to the spark plug here. All these have to come off. everything is zip tied on. I had some wire holding the plastics on. I think this is the only bolt that was holding the plastics on. Otherwise it was all zip ties in this metal. That came off. Right now, gas tank should come off of here. Alright, so there's actually a pump on the gas tank. So there's a vacuum line coming in right here from the carb, and you've got your gas line. What's weird is that this gas tank is above the carb. Wouldn't you just make it gravity fed and get rid of the pump? Unless it needs that much fuel to the carb. You wouldn't think it would. But yeah, gravity does a lot of work by itself. So I don't know, just one more problem that I could have is that pump there, which I'm sure is not working. All right, looking pretty nasty up here. Yeah, that's not looking too good. This thing has not been touched in a while, you can definitely tell. So all the lines are on the carb, that's good. Here's the vacuum line coming from the carb. Let's get a good picture of that. It's coming from right there. We're gonna try to clean off all this dirt on top of here before we go any further. Try to get that spark plug out. I'm guessing that boot is stuck in there too. Bunch of dirt. These boots like to get stuck in here. Oh, that one pulled right out. A lot of times these kind of melt, then get stuck. So luckily, that one looks good. We're gonna wipe that down a little bit. Spinning kind of hard. There we go. It's coming. Feels a little sticky in there. Oh man. Oh my. I don't think I've ever seen a worse plug than that. What the heck happened there? That's really bad. I think this thing's gonna be shot. That is horrible. So it looks like water got in here. That's all rust on that plug. Wow, is that bad? I'm afraid to take a camera down the cylinder. Oh, that's awful. Let me just quick take a peek with a flashlight, see what's down there. That is a very bad sign. I see a piston. Wonder if there's a hole in the piston. Let's clean up this plug a little bit. Alright, went ahead and cleaned up the plug. It looks really white too. It almost looks like somebody put a new plug in it before when they couldn't get it to run and it never fired up, and then they let it sit for 8 years and it rusted all on there, because inside there is all white. So I wonder if this thing was running extremely lean, most likely due to that pump. We'll see. I'm afraid to see what's down here. Ooh. Ooh, that is not good. Let's take a peek. Yeah, that's pretty carboned up. You can see the rust forming right there on the piston. See that right there? See what the cylinder wall looks like. Oh man. Oh, look at the valves. What is all that? Is that almost looked like a dent in the piston, but I think that's a place for the valve to sit. Hopefully right there, but man, look at those valves. Holy cow. That's crazy. So that's what the plug looked like. Yeah, we're gonna need some penetrating oil down the cylinder for sure. This is looking pretty bad. Wow. I'm guessing those rings are just toast. Wow. Little oil down there. Basically just like a little cocktail of lubricants going down. Alright, we're gonna let that sit for a little bit, come back, and we'll hook up a battery and see what's going on. In the meantime, let's check the coolant. Alright, coolant is right here. Let's see. Ooh. It's actually topped off. So hopefully it's not a head gasket problem. We know that the radiator is not leaking, at least. That's good. Yeah, it's completely topped off, so that's actually not too bad. Let's try to hook up a battery, see if anything turns over here. Crack it up. Alright, we've got positive and negative. So negative is this post here. Positive over here. We can get to it. Turn it on. Turn the key. Will anything light up here? Oh yeah. We've got another key position. Oh, headlights are working. Wow, so neutral light's working. Headlight is working here. Awesome. High and low. Yep, high and low both work. Cool. So the question is, does the electric start work? Let's find out right now. Here we go. Oh, Just gonna slowly turn it over. I want to break a ring. Let's get a little bit more lubrication down there. Seems a little crunchy in there. Sounds a little iffy. Definitely sounds iffy. Almost sounds like a rod bearing is gone. But we're gonna continue to lube this thing up. Could just be a tight ring in there. Turns over kind of hard. All right, well, we're gonna let that soak for a little bit. Hopefully that penetrating oil soaks into the rings and kind of frees them up. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and check for spark, see if we're getting anything. Check the boot first. See what that looks like. Ooh, definitely tight on there. Yeah, not much exposed. We're gonna clean that off with contact cleaner. I definitely didn't think it was gonna be this bad, the quad. It's definitely worse than I thought. All right, back on. And then we'll see if we get any spark. What are the chances we have spark? Alright. Plug in there. We'll use the old plug, may as well. Alright. Work here. Alright, here we go. Oh yeah, we're getting something. Oh yeah, good spark. Let's turn the lights off. It's turning over a little bit better now. Pretty yellow spark though. So far we're getting pretty lucky with it. Let's put a new spark plug in. See what one this takes. Alright, we've got a brand new plug here. CR7E is the correct plug for it. Plug that in and see what the spark looks like now. See if that's a little bit better. See if it's any better. Looks pretty blue. Yeah, there's blue spark. Ooh, engine's not sounding too good. But at least we have blue spark now. That's good. Well, looked it up, and it looks like we should have about 142 PSI with the throttle held open. And that's with the decompression mechanism activated. So we'll see what we get. Less than 100, it probably won't fire. So it could be tight intake valves, which is pretty common for these. So we'll do throttle open. We'll see what we get. All right, here we go. Throttle open. Crank her over. Ooh. That's really bad. We're at 75 PSI, and that's with oil down it. Oh boy. Let's dump some more oil down it, and we'll see if it jumps up. If it jumps way up, we know for sure it's rings. Bunch of oil going in. Now if it jumps way up, we know it's the rings. If it stays about the same, it's probably the valves. Let's see what we get. All right, throttle open. There we go. So rings are definitely stuck. 165. That jumped way up. So unfortunately the rings are really stuck. So what I'm hoping we can do is put a bunch of oil down the cylinder on the initial startup, and that will give us enough compression to maybe fire this thing up and break free those rings. I'm guessing those rings are just tight to that piston right now. All right, let's get this valve cover off of here if we can. That line comes off. There's one here too. I think that's pretty much it. Pound. Popped off. Cover looks good on the inside. All right, let's take a peek in here. Oh, cam chain feels good. Lobes look pretty good. You can see the lobes look pretty decent. There's oil up here. That's a good sign. And the cam chain is nice and tight. So far, top end's looking pretty decent here. Or at least the cams look pretty good. Decompression mechanism's right in here. We'll have to see if that's working too. But yeah, so far so good. Let's go ahead, get to the left-hand side over here. And we are going to take off the cover here and here, get this thing to top dead center. Check out the timing, and then the valve clearance. Here. Holy cow, was that on there? That hasn't been off in a while. Oh man, that was on there too. All right, we can turn this thing over until we find top dead center. There it is right there. And there you can see it, a T with a line. That's tapped dead center. You can see our lobes are pointing out that way and that way, opposite of each other. And then timing over here, looking at the cam sprockets, you can see a couple different marks. So on the exhaust cam, you're gonna see a 2 with an arrow pointing up. You're gonna see an arrow pointing that way towards the intake side, and then another arrow pointing towards the exhaust. And these are gonna be parallel with the surface here, which they are. And then on the intake, you're going to see a 3 with an arrow pointing up, and then you're gonna see arrow pointing that way, arrow pointing that way, and those are parallel with the surface of the head as well. So timing is spot on. We also wanna make sure our woodruff key is not sheared off. We're looking down the hole here in the cylinder, and our piston is in fact right at the top of the cylinder. So that means our woodruff key shouldn't be sheared off on the flywheel, because that piston is at top dead center when the mark on the flywheel is at top dead center. So most likely it's not sheared off. So let's check the valves next, make sure those clearances are good. All right, valve clearance for a 2004 Suzuki LTZ400. The intake is going to be 4 to 12 thousandths of an inch, and the exhaust is going to be, what is it, 8 to 12. Let's check them. So I'd like to set the intake right around a 4 gauge. That slides right in, slides right in. Definitely not tight. Let's go up to 8 thousandths of an inch. Just slides in at 8, that one doesn't. That one's a little bit tight at 8. So I'd say this one's at 8 thousandths, and the other one is probably close to, I'm guessing 6. Let's see. Yep, just slides in at 6. So this one's set to 6, this one's set to 8 for the intake. And for the exhaust, we want them between 8 and 12, so we'll start off with 8. Yep, both slide in, so none of the valves are tight at all. And we'll go right to 12. That one grabs at 12. That one's grabbing at 12. So these are set to the higher limit. This one is set to the higher limit. That one's to the lower, like mid in between limit. So my main concern was that the valves were going to be tight, and they are definitely not. So we'll see how it runs with the valves like that, and then if we have to tighten them up a little bit, we will. These valves are adjusted with shims, so it takes a little bit of time to do that. You know, there's a bunch of rust on those valves too, so they might come up a little bit higher once all that rust is off and seating into the head. All right, let's start working on getting this carb out next. It's kind of buried in here. Just 2 clamps holding it on. One here and one here. We might have to take out the air box, let's see. Looks like it's gonna come out. Alright. Let's see. There we go. We can get it right through the top here. Let's see how sandy it is. There she comes. And choke, we can check and see if that's working. There we go. It's really dirty on the outside of it. carb is out. That is just cake full. Look at that. All right, I just turned on the ultrasonic cleaner. You can hear it going in the background because we're definitely gonna have to use that for this thing. This is pretty bad. All right, last one. There we go. Got to budge. What do you guys think it's gonna look like on the inside here? Ooh, it's not too bad. A little gunk in the bottom there, but nothing too bad. I'm really surprised it doesn't look worse. Yeah, bowl doesn't look horrible. Yeah, it's pretty darn clean in there, actually. Pin is free, float feels good, needle looks good. Well, so far we're off to a pretty good start here. Main jet coming out. All right, main, we're running a 155, that's clear. All right, I think this is the little starter jet in here. Little starter jet is a 60, and that was clear. And then you've got your pilot way down in there. The stock jetting as well, make sure this is all stock. But there is an aftermarket pipe on it, so that might affect things as well. Pilot is completely clogged up. We're running a 25 pilot. That seems kind of small, but we'll see. And we'll get our emulsion tube out of here. That's pretty clear. Doesn't look too bad. And then we can get our seat out of here and check that O-ring. It's nice having carbs with the removable seat. That way you can replace it if it gets bad. A lot of carbs are not like that. Yeah, that O-ring is junk. It's all dry rotted. It's not super hard, but it's dry rotted. So that was definitely letting fuel by. And then we have our fuel screw right here. We are exactly two turns out on the fuel screw. There should be a little O-ring and washer in there as well. There's a spring. Alright, there's the O-ring. So that looks good. Alright, next, let's take a peek at the diaphragm here. See if this is going to be good to go. So there should be a spring underneath here with the diaphragm. Oh, something flew out. That spring. Alright, there's the spring. Sits in there like that. You got your little diaphragm, don't want to rip it. That doesn't look horrible. There's a little check valve here. See that ball check valve? Should push down like that. It's moving, so that's good. All right, last thing to check, besides the vacuum line being clear, is the diaphragm here. We know that the slide moves up and down, but let's see what that diaphragm looks like. We're hoping it's not ripped. All right, spring is on there. Cover has some sand in it. Diaphragm has some sand on it too. Yeah, this top end probably got toasted with sand. Looking at the diaphragm, no rips in the diaphragm though. That looks pretty good. We're probably gonna let that sit in the ultrasonic cleaner as well. And I always like to check and see if that needle pushes up. It shouldn't bounce around in there. So that's nice and tight. So overall, the carb actually looked pretty decent. I was not expecting that. So we're gonna let this sit in the ultrasonic cleaner for about 30 to 40 minutes, come back, and it should be all good to go. Like sand on the outside of the carb. You can see this is Makuni right here. So this is the original carb. Bowl going in, cover going in. This should all clean up pretty good. Got our diaphragm going in over here. There's a vacuum line going in, clean that out. And our jets. Well, carb is out of the ultrasonic cleaner. That turned out amazing. I mean, looks brand new. Look at that. So that really cleaned up nicely. Then we blew through it with the air compressor, so every passageway is clear. Blew through all the jets are cleared out. The bowl is nice and clean in there. And then we cleaned up the diaphragm, and more sand on that. And the cover looks perfect. So we can get everything back together. All right, so stock jetting on a stock 2004 LTZ400 is gonna be 130 for the main and 22.5 for the pilot. So somebody must have rejetted it for the aftermarket pipe that's on it. So right now we're running at 155 and a 25 pilot. So they upped the pilot and the main jet for the pipe. So we'll see if it runs with those jets. We might have to rejet it if it doesn't. All right, get the carb back on here. All right, went ahead and robbed a air filter off a different machine, put that on there. That should work just fine. This is a CV carb, so it needs that air box and air filter on there to run right. So let's go ahead and get our brand new plug down here. Alright, we're going to be working on the gas tank now. So what happens with these pumps, a lot of times I've seen it happen before, is this pump fails and then gas flows through this line here. This is for the vacuum line, and actually floods out the engine because it's going right into the engine. So gas comes through this line instead of this line, causing it to run really, really rich. So if you see gas coming out of your vacuum line, your pump is bad in here. Kind of wondering if that petcock is leaking. Let's see. All right, let's go to prime with it. I've got gas coming out on the prime position. Looks really good. Really good gas flow. All right. No leaking from the petcock at all. All right, let's get the gas tank hooked back up here. Your vacuum line hooked up. Sink's all hooked up. Vacuum line is hooked up here. Going from the carb here back to the nipple there. And we've got our gas line going all the way down to the carb, all hooked back up. So everything is good to go, and we know that the prime position does work. So this position, gas is flowing into the carb. And you can actually test and see if the carb is getting gas by cracking the bolt right here. And it should leak out of the carb. So far the carb's holding. That's good. All right, we're on the left-hand side of the machine. And going underneath here, you can kind of see the drain plug right through there. Or right through there, you can kind of see where it drains out. There's the bolt there. Let's crack that one, drain the engine out. And then there's an oil tank bolt right there as well. All right, we got the budge. Ooh, that's some black oil. That is really black. That hasn't been changed in a long time. All right, oil is all drained out of the engine. Let's work our way to the oil tank over here. See what that looks like. Some oil in there. There's a bolt. Good, at least there was some oil in it. Yeah, quite a bit of oil in there. This thing takes about 2 quarts, so. Hopefully that oil pump is working. Alright, you can see how black the oil is here. Straight black. Let's see if there's any chunks. Take a magnet. I go through it. That's a Woodruff key from a different machine, so that doesn't count. Yeah, nothing. Yeah, no flakes, no chunks. And we're using 10W40 wet clutch oil. I think we can dump the full 2 quarts in here. It might be 1.5. We'll see how much this oil tank can hold. There's 1 quart. Looks like it fits the full 2 quarts. All right. And then we'll check the oil after the first run. See if we have to add any. Let's get some more gas in quick. Well, I think we're ready for the first start attempt. We've got coolant in it, fresh gas in it, carb was just cleaned out, all the jets blown through, a new air filter. We've got the valves adjusted to spec, timing spot on, got really good spark. The only thing that concerns me is that compression. We saw it shoot way up with the oil down the cylinder. So if we can somehow get enough compression to fire this thing up for the first time, I think the rings would free up by themselves and it would gain that compression back. So hopefully we can get it to fire and those rings will become free. That's the hope. A first start attempt in probably 8 years. All right, this should be interesting. Choke it. Go. Uh-oh. I think we locked it up. I think she might be locked up. I started up there for a brief second and just locked up. We're gonna take off the cap and try to turn it by hand. That's not good. Well, I think we know why it was parked. Check this out. She's locked up. Oh, tight. Oh, that's not turning at all. Wow. Well, that's not good. Completely tight. Oh man. So either the rod bearing went, the crank bearings went, or something in the top end went. All I know is it started up for a brief second and locked right up. So the other thing I can think of is maybe the valve broke because they were so rusty. I don't know. Both. See what the plug looks like. Like here. No, plug isn't damaged. Plug looks good still. So usually if like a rod bearing is really bad, it would dent in that spark plug because the piston's coming up higher. Or if a valve dropped, it would dent that too. So we'll try turning over the engine by hand again. Just to make sure it wasn't hydro locked. Something weird. Nope. Piston has a bunch of carbon, but not seeing a valve in there at all. Laying there. Alright, so I don't think anything failed in the top end. We'll take the cover off here in a second, but let's take off the gear here for the starter. Make sure that didn't lock up. Teeth on there look good. It wasn't that. Oh, is that tight? That is really tight. How did it lock up that tight? Alright, let's get this cover back off, the valve cover. See if we can find out any clues from what's going on in there. Cam chain didn't let loose. Huh. I think what we can do is check the oil filter. See if there's any remnants of metal shavings. All right, let's see what the oil filter is hiding. See if there's any chunks in there. Not really seeing any. Ooh, I see some flakes. There's definitely metallic flakes on that. You guys look at that, you can see a ton of metallic flakes here. I see them all sparkling on the paper. That's all in the filter, look at all of them. Jeez. Oh man, that sucks. There's a lot of flakes. Yeah, that whole filter's packed full of them. Yeah. So there's flakes throughout the whole filter. Look at them all in there. Oh, shoot. So this happened before I bought it. Obviously, look at all those. Oh, man. Let's see how bad. Oh, yeah, look at all of them. Yeah, that's a lot. So that's no good. I think that rod bearing is toast. Well, I think we're gonna start tearing down the top end here, see what happens. So we'll get these cam holders off, cams out, and we'll get this head off and see how bad this thing is. But you never know. Why is that on there so tight? Well, it looks like we're cutting off the bolt here. Try to at least, see if we can get in there. It's gonna be tough. See if we can heat it up at least. Alright, tensioner's out. That's what that looks like. Now the cam chain's really loose, so we can get the cams out. Exhaust cam. All right, intake cam coming out here. We can just let that chain dangle here. All right, cam looks pretty good. All right, both cams are out, cam chains tucked away. Let's get the coolant out of here. Jeez, everything is so tight on this thing. Alright, let's see if that'll come off. Alright, that's off enough. Make sure these are extremely tight on here as well. Oh, not too bad. Washers on each one of these. Now, cam chain's still on here. Alright, here we go. Let's see what this looks like. Valves look a little rough, but nothing broken. Yeah, it's gotta be the bottom end. Guide looks good. Gasket looks good. Alright, piston doesn't look too bad in there. It was in the right way, the dot's facing the intake side. Alright, let's try to get this cylinder off. So there's two nuts here, 10mm, that come off, and then the whole cylinder can come off, hopefully. Oh yeah, it feels loose. It's coming. Cylinder looks a bit rough. You can see lines going all the way down like that on both sides. So this is nickel plated. Might need a new cylinder. We'll check it out a little bit later. See what that piston looks like here. Looks like the rings are actually free on it. Most of them are. Let's see. Yeah, rings are free actually. Wow. Looks like the oil ring. Yeah, that's free too. That's pretty good. Oh, look at that. Yeah, it's the rod bearing. Completely locked up. Look at this. Oh, that rod bearing's toast. Check this out. Hopefully you guys can see it in there. See how the rod doesn't move? It's just the crank that's moving with the rod. So it's tight to the crank. That is really bad. Look how tight that is in there. Alright, piston coming off. Now we've got a better look in here. You can see how tight that is. See how it's moving with the crank. Cam chain feels good, nice and loose. Yeah, that got really tight there. There's no back and forth play at all, no up and down play at all. Wow, is that tight? So that is the problem. Well, let's go over the piston here. So the rings were not stuck. Let's just take a peek and see what the ring gap was at. I'm kind of curious here. It says Art on the bottom of the piston. Guessing it was rebuilt at one point. Oh, ring gap's not horrible. Let's see what this one's at. Yeah, ring gap is not that bad. So maybe firing it up for that brief second loosened up those rings. I'm guessing compression would have went way up. So, too bad that rod bearing is bad. We probably could have saved it. Now that I cleaned it out. It's really not horrible. It's worn off a little here through the coating. Yeah, it's starting to wear off through the coating here too. So it might be best just get a new cylinder. It's definitely wearing off through that coating, unfortunately. So add cylinder to the list of parts. This can get really expensive really fast. All right, and then the head really doesn't look too good either. So it looks like the valves are extremely carboned up. We might be able to get away with just cleaning them up and then relapping them. And then obviously valve seals it needs. But otherwise, you know, all the valves push down we saw from before. Yep. That one looks like it's sitting kind of high right here. Yep, they are all pushing down. That one's like a good 2 millimeters higher than this one though. Kind of weird. So head is definitely salvageable, but it needs a lot of valve work. So we might have to buy new valves for it too if those are too worn out. So piston, potentially valves, valve seals, gasket kit, new crank, new cylinder. Pretty much the worst possible case scenario for this machine. Pretty much have to buy everything brand new, and I'm guessing crank bearings as well. We haven't even gone into the clutch area yet, so who knows what that needs. And then add chain, caliper that was broken off. The chain is super rusty, sprockets are bad. At some point you have to ask yourself, is it even worth it? Because we're gonna have a lot of money stuck into this thing, unfortunately. So my guess with this thing is that, you know, it probably had that rod bearing failure happen a couple times, and then the seller parked it knowing it was probably bad because it was probably locking up. There are so many flakes in the oil filter. It definitely didn't happen when I rotated the engine over. So I'm guessing it was gradually locking up more and more and more. Shut it down, let it sit for 8 years, got it out, sold it, and then the next sucker bought it, which was me. Spun it over a couple times, and then heard it start for 2 seconds, and then locked up again. So I'm guessing that was a continuous cycle is what happened. And this time it just locked up permanently. So all we can do is buy new parts and rebuild this thing. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and we definitely lost on this one. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Picking up this 2004 Suzuki LTZ400, going through the whole thing, diagnosing it, and tearing it all down. But we'll build this thing up next video and hopefully take it for the first ride. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for the next video. And until next time, we are out.